Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 33 of Learn Lightroom 5. And in this episode, I'm going to show you my entire Lightroom workflow from start to finish. Now, in previous episodes, I've showed bits and pieces of this. I've never did it in one video though, from beginning to end, and that's what I'm going to do now. Now, let me say though that in Lightroom, you could do a thing many different ways, and it's not necessarily doing it one way is better than another way, but I will say the way I do things is the best way for me. So it might not be the best way for you, but it'll give you some ideas of how I do it, and maybe you could take bits and pieces of the way I do things and add it to the way you do things and come up with a workflow that really is working for you. The first thing I do that's different as we look at my dog Archie is I do not load the images from the SD card into Lightroom through Lightroom. I do it through, I have a Mac, so I do it through Finder in Mac. I covered this in previous episode where I showed you how to load images into Lightroom. The reason why I do it this way is I found that the Lightroom import method to be kind of clumsy and not very intuitive. And what happened is I was importing files into my Lightroom library, and it was renaming, it was making folders that I didn't expect it to make, and it was putting dates on things there where I didn't want dates and stuff like that, and it really messed up my Lightroom library really bad. And so what I did was, starting to do it this way, I could put things exactly where I want them, exactly how I want them, and I found out that for me it works better. Now, when I had that previous video showing this, I got a lot of emails from people saying that thank God, because their Lightroom library was all messed up too. But I did get a few emails from people saying, you're crazy, it's real easy to do, you could do this, this, and this. Well, that works for them. This is the way I do it. I put the SD card in. I already have it in here. It's on my desktop. And I'll open my SD card. Now, let's say I just went out and took these shots, when in reality I took these shots, I think, over about a year ago. I just have 10 or 11 shots on here. So I select them all. I just select one and I hit Command A or Control A if you have a PC that selects all of them. Then I hit Command C to copy them. If you have a PC, it's Control C. It copies them to the clipboard. So they're copied, that's fine. Now I go over to this drive. This is where my Lightroom library is. It's a Thunderbolt drive that's plugged into my MacBook laptop. And so I click on this and I keep my Lightroom library under My Pictures, Lightroom Raw Files. I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to call it Beach. And now I'm going to copy them to the folder Beach by hitting Command V as in Victor or Control V as in Victor if you have a PC, and it copies them from the SD card onto my Thunderbolt drive into my Lightroom library where it is, and they're copied. Now I eject the SD card before I open Lightroom, and once it ejects, now I open Lightroom. And when I open Lightroom now, I'll import the file. So I go to File, Import Photo and Video. It comes up with the input dialog. I make sure that I'm on Add. So when you add them, Lightroom doesn't move them from where I put them. I put them in that Beach folder, which is on that Thunderbolt drive. And it's not going to move them, it's just adding them to the Lightroom library. I could move them to a different area, or I could copy them, or I could create, convert them to a DNG and then copy them. Don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to add them to the Lightroom library. The folder is right here, it's Beach. And now see it pre-selected all 11 files. And so that's good. If you didn't want one, you could just uncheck it. Let's say you didn't want to load that one or didn't want to load that one. But we're going to load them all. Over here on the right, I keep my build previews at minimal. It just saves space and it goes a little faster. I could build smart previews, and what smart previews are, typically when I have to, if I want to develop a picture, I have to have my hard drive plugged into my computer, and then Lightroom could see the file and and I could develop the picture. If I build smart previews when I import it, I don't have to have that hard drive plugged in. So I could actually just take this laptop and go like to the coffee shop and process my images there. I don't need to bring the hard drive with me. So that comes in handy, but I'm not going to check it now. If I think that any of these might have been copied already, I could click this box and it won't import any duplicates, but I'm going to leave that one fine. Yeah, there's fine. I could add some develop settings, which I never do. So you could have some presets, black and white presets, and it will actually apply it to the image when it's being imported, and I never do that. Metadata, if I had some metadata in a file, like a preset metadata, I could add that too. I never do that. I do add keywords though. So we're going to add beach, and we're going to add Woodlawn Beach. That was the name of this this beach I was at. And we're going to put, well, didn't put Woodlawn. And we're going to put Lake Erie. We're going to put water, sand, stuff like that. So for the sake of time, we'll leave it at that. So now when it imports them, it's going to put these keywords in the metadata of each of these files. Now that's all I got to do, and I'm going to click import. Alright, quickly, as you can see, it imported all 11 files into the Lightroom library. And it left them on where I put them on that Thunderbolt drive. Now my next step I like to do is I like to go through each file and see which ones are keepers and which ones are rejects. And before I do that though, I always click on the folder. And the reason why you do that, if you want to move them around, it won't let you move them unless you're clicked on the folder. So click on the folder, and if I wanted to move them around, I'm able to move them around. Now my next step is, I mentioned, I go through each one. And what I want to do now, I'm in what they call the grid view in library, and right here is the grid view. You can see right there, and its shortcut is G. I want to go to the single file view. I could just click on that icon right there, and I'm in this, so I could see one image at a time. Or I could just hit E, and if I hit the E key, it brings me right to that image. Next thing I like to do is I like to get rid of these side panels when I'm looking at it, so I could see it a little bigger. So all I got to do is hit the tab key. Got rid of the side panels. I can hit the tab key again, and the side panels come back. Now you have to remember really, well, two keys. You could remember the third one, but it doesn't matter. What I'm getting at is I'm going to go through each image, and I'm going to pick some that I like, and then I'm going to exclude some that I want to get rid of, that I think are duds. And the easiest way to do that is there's just some keys you use. P is for pick, X is for exclude, and if you make a mistake and you want to you didn't want to pick it and you're not sure, or you want to undo the flag, you just hit the U key. Alright, now before we even do this, I want you to go up to Photo and make sure Auto Advance is checked. Okay, Photo Auto Advance is checked. Now what we do is we start at the first one here, and I like this photo, so it's a pick, so I'm going to hit P. Now you can see it says flag as picked, and it went to the next image. That's what that auto advance did. So I like this one too, so I'm going to hit P. I like this one, I'm going to hit P. So you could go really quickly doing this. I don't like this one at all, so X. I don't like this one. Look at the horizon's crooked. This is bullseyed. X. This one's okay. P. The windmills, I don't like it. It's kind of hazy. I don't really care for it. So X. I like this one, P. I like this one. Well, let's say the horizon's crooked on that one, and I put P on it for pick. Well, let's say I'm really not sure. I could go back to it. You could see it was a pick. I could hit U, and it will unpick it. So it's not rejected, but it's not picked either. I like this one, P, and I like this one, P. So we have 3 rejects. If you look at the thumbnails, the white flag is a pick, and in the corner there, that black flag, that's a reject. Next thing I do is I want to delete the rejected photos. I don't want to keep them on the hard drive. I want to save space. Some people don't do this. They keep everything, even if it's a dud. But I like to get rid of them. So I go up to Photo, very last choice, delete rejected photos. It will show you then the rejected photos that you have. You have two choices, well, three technically. You could either remove them from the Lightroom library, but they'll stay on the disk, or you could delete them from the Lightroom library and delete them from the disk, or you could just cancel and not do anything. So we're going to delete them totally. Now those images are gone forever. Now the next thing I like to do is I might go through them and see which one I like better, and than another one. And we use a view called the compare view. It's right here. You see this XY? We could click on that. First of all, let's go to the first image. Click on the first image. I'm going to click on that. You could also just hit C for compare, and it will bring up the first two images. Well, in this case, because I had this other one selected, it's on that one, which I didn't want it on. All right. So now, just ignore that. Ignore the man behind the curtain. Anyways, so what we did now, we're going to compare the two images. We have the first one here, and that's our selected one. And this is the candidate. Now I got to decide which one I like better. I think I like this one better. So there's two ways I want to put this one over here. Right here you'll see XY. This just swaps them. Click that. Now the one that was the candidate is the selected one, and the one that was the selected one is the candidate. I don't use that method. I prefer to use this one next to it. All it does, it moves the one that we want, that's the candidate that we're going to make selected now. It moves it into the selected area. Then it takes the next photo in line and puts it over here. It's a lot faster. So we do that. Now I have that one over here, and now the third one is right here. Now that's pretty much the same as that one. Well, there's some more sky. I like this more sky in this one. So we're going to go with this one. So I switched it again. Now this one I don't like. I like this one better. So we're going to skip this one. All you have to do is you could click this arrow key here, or we just click the right arrow key on our keyboard, and we go to the next one. And I don't like that one. Go to the next one. I don't like that one. Go to the next one. I don't like that one. Now this last one, I kind of like this one. Let's go with this one. So I want to put this one over here. So we're just going to do that. Now this is our choice. Now we're going to go back to the loop view, which is E. Okay, or you could have clicked right there. So this is the one that I've decided now that I'm going to process. I never use the star system or the color system. If you want to, you could assign 1 to 5 stars for this shot by simply clicking the appropriate number key. So if I want to make this 3 stars, I just hit 3. And it set the rating to 3. Now I could add some colors too. If I want to add like a blue, I think it's number 9. So I set the label to blue, and as you can see now, it made this frame. If you look down here, it's blue. It's different color than all the rest. You could go also up to photo, set color label, and it has red, yellow, green, blue, purple, and it's 6, 7, 8, 9, and purple it doesn't have a hotkey. So that's if you want to set colors for some reason, if you use that. The reason why you would do that, you could do a quick collection where you could just say all the blue pictures, the ones I have labeled blue, I want in a quick collection. Or you could say all the ones that are 3 stars I want in this quick collection, stuff like that. So that's why you do that. Now personally, I never do that, so I don't worry about it. Okay, now we have this one selected. Now we're going to go to the develop module to develop it. You could just hit D on your keyboard and it will bring you to the develop module, or you could just click on develop. Alright, now we have we're in the develop module. Over here is where we do all of our adjustments. I usually get rid of these 2 panels to give me just a little more room. Alright, and the first thing I do when I look at the shot for developing is I look at the white balance and I look for the exposure. And it seems to be a touch underexposed. The white balance is fine, so I'm not going to worry about white balance. So tint and temp I'm not even going to mess with. It seems to be a little bit underexposed, but I'm going to hold off on a minute on that. The next thing I do is it's crooked, so I want to straighten it. So I'm going to go here, and there's a bunch of different ways you could straighten it too, and I use all of them, but in this case, since we have kind of a defined horizon, I'm just going to get this angle tool right here, and I'm just going to draw a line along the horizon here as straight as possible. And then see how it straightened the image, and hit enter on your keyboard, and now it's straightened out the image. Okay, so now we have a straight horizon. The next thing I do is in the basic panel is I usually bring highlights all the way down on a landscape photo and shadows all the way up. Now, I don't do this on a macro or on a portrait or pretty much anything, and I don't even do it on all my landscapes. I might do it on 80% of them. And you guys know I do this. I get a lot of emails saying that people love this method, and I always get an odd email here and there. People telling me I'm an idiot for doing it that way. But, you know, this is the way I do it. It works for me. You guys, you know, come up with your own way that works for you. But this will help you get into the ballpark. So I bring highlights all the way down, shadows all the way up. After I do that, I decide if I want to use either the brush or the graduated filter. And I think I want to put a graduated filter in here. I want to make the sky a bit darker. So I'm going to reset these sliders, and see where it says effect. If I hold the Alt or Option key, it turns into reset. You could just reset by clicking now, but you could just, a quick way is don't even worry about the Alt or Option key. Just double click on effect, and you can see it reset the sliders. So what I want to do here is I want to increase contrast, and I probably want to bring exposure down a little bit. So we're going to bring exposure down, contrast up. I'm going to hold the Shift key down. The reason why I'm going to do that, when I drag this down, it will drag it perfectly straight. See, now if I go off to the side, it's staying straight. If I wasn't holding the Shift key down, it would tilt this whole graduated filter. So I'm going to drag it down quite a bit. And now I could readjust it if I want. I could bring exposure up, I could bring exposure down. But we're going to bring exposure down just a little bit, and contrast up just a little bit. And that's good. So we're going to close down the graduated filter. Now the graduated filter is done. We did the highlights and shadows. Now we're going to set the white and black point. The way I do this is you hold the Alt or Option key down when you click on the slider for whites. Move it to the right until you just get a little bit of color or a little bit of white coming through. See right there, we're just getting some stuff coming through. Then I back it off so there's just a tiny bit. Now for the blacks, I do similarly. I hold the Alt or Option key down and I click down. Now this time the screen turned white, and I go to the left until we get some color or some black coming through. And I usually bring this one a little further. Alright, now we set the white and black point. Now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm looking at exposure, and it actually doesn't look too bad. So that's why I didn't do exposure right away. I wanted to set those sliders here before I messed with exposure. Alright, next thing I do is I go down to clarity, and I bring up clarity a little bit. And add a bit of vibrance, just a little bit. I might come back and readjust vibrance later. I often do that. Difference between vibrance and saturation, if you haven't heard any of my earlier videos, any colors that aren't already saturated or near saturation, vibrance will enhance those. Saturation, on the other hand, will enhance or bring saturation up in every single color in the picture, whether or not it's already saturated or near saturation. So vibrance just kind of brings up those lesser colors. It brings them a little more vibrant. And typically I like to use that one. Alright, I maybe add just a touch of contrast, like that. Okay, now I'm pretty much done with the basic panel for now. I might come back to it after I do some of these other adjustments. Next one, I'm not going to do anything with the tone curve. I like the contrast as it is, but I do have an episode on the tone curve. You guys could check that out. I am going to go to the HSL Color and B&W tab here, and I want to darken the sky just a little bit, make the blue a little more intense. So I'm going to go to the Saturation tab, and I'm going to bring blue saturation up just a smidge. Okay, now I'm going to go to the luminance part of that, and I'm going to just make it a little darker, just like that, just a tiny bit, -5. Now maybe the sand too, it's a little dark, so maybe I could bring yellow and orange, make it a little more saturated, and then go to the luminance, and instead of how I brought the blue down, I'll bring the yellow and the orange up, which makes it lighter. So like that. So my HSL color and B&W tab is done. I'm not going to do any split toning in this episode or in this photo. I do have an episode where I do just split toning. You could check that out. I am going to do some sharpening and noise reduction. Now, a couple things is I get some emails where people tell me you should do the noise reduction first before you do the sharpening, because if you don't, then you're just sharpening noise. And in a way that's true, particularly if you're using an external program to sharpen or an external program to do noise reduction. But we're just doing this in Lightroom. In Lightroom's algorithm, these work together, so it doesn't matter what order you do them in. So that's number one. So don't be afraid of doing sharpening first, then doing noise reduction. It doesn't matter. Trust me on this. The other thing is there's a little expose triangle right here. If you click on that, you'll get a preview. A lot of people ask me they don't have the preview and they wonder, where it went. Just hit this triangle and it will come and go. Now I never use it. I look over here. What I typically do is I zoom in to somewhere where I want to see some detail, which I think is the grain in this wood. So I'm going to bring up sharpening to a point. Usually, now I mentioned many times the quick and dirty sharpening 70 and the noise reduction's 40. But I could tell right now as I get in the 70s, I'm really making a lot of noise here, introducing some noise. So I'm going to back this off. And it takes a second to render, so just be careful, go slow. And just break it off till the noise abates. And I think right around 46 is fine. I do have an episode, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned, on just sharpening and noise reduction. I think it's episode 5. I'm not going to go in too much detail here, but so you can check out that episode where I talk about each of these sliders individually. The radius is okay on this shot, but I am going to bring detail down a little bit on this shot. Just a little bit. Now, the next thing is masking, and what masking will do is I could mask off parts of the shot where I do not want the sharpening applied, and it's real easy to do. Again, we hold that Alt Option key down like we did for the white and black point. Then we click down on the slider and we move it to the right. Now whatever is white is being sharpened. As I move it to the right, you'll see a lot of parts turning black. The parts that are black are not being sharpened at all. And I don't want the sky sharpened because I want it to be soft and fluffy. It doesn't need to be sharp and hard. So that's, the look I want. The next now is noise reduction, and as I zoom in, I could see a little noise, particularly in here. So I kind of look right there, and now this takes a little longer to render, so kind of go slow. You could kind of go in increments at like 10. Like if you just hit, have that slider selected and hit your up arrow key, and here, let's bring it down. You hit the up arrow key and it will go in increments of 5. So there's 5. Wait a second, there's 10, 15, 20. Just give it a second to render. It's getting close at 20, 25. I'd say 25. It got rid of the noise that I saw right here very well. Detail and contrast I'm going to leave alone, and all these other sliders are fine. As I mentioned too, check out episode 5 where I talk about these in detail. I talk about detail in detail. Okay, lens corrections. I used to do this first because I always thought you should do it first. But what I found was when I did do lens corrections first, if I had to use the brush or any of these tools, it became very unstable. And I found out through Adobe that lens corrections uses a lot of computing power, a lot of your computer's resources. So when you do that and then you go and you start playing with these other controls, it tends to get unstable. So that's why they have it so far down in the workflow. They don't want you to do it right away. So I do now not do it right away. So I'm going to enable profile corrections. You're going to see it corrected a little barrel distortion. Remove chromatic aberration. I'm just going to click it. I don't think there is any. Chromatic aberration is caused by your lens, and usually where there's a high contrast change, like between this piece of wood here and the sky, you'd see like a thin purple line or green line going right between the transition area. So that will click that, and you could help get rid of that. Now there's nothing else. If it was a building and I wanted to straighten it out or anything like that, I could click auto. I don't need to do anything else with lens corrections. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to add a slight dark vignette. So I go to the effects, add my vignette. You can see that. Now the last thing is camera calibration. I mentioned this before. If you do not shoot in RAW, if you're shooting JPEG, you will not get anything here. You'll just get, I think, as shot or something like that. If you shoot RAW and you shoot Nikon or Canon, you'll get a lot of choices. If you shoot Pentax, Olympus, you'll get some choices. Some Sony, though, you won't get any choice. There won't be anything here. So it depends on your camera. This is really dependent on your camera manufacturer. So in this case, it starts out with Adobe Standard on my Nikon camera that I used. If you had mentioned a Canon, it will have just as many choices, but they'll be called something different, and they're going to do something different when you click on them. So I'm going to click on Camera Landscape and see what happens. And it made a little darker, a little more richer color. We'll go to Camera Neutral. See what that does. That I don't like that. It kind of reduced contrast. Camera Portrait. It's not too bad. Camera Standard, which is going to be just pretty much like Adobe Standard was. And we're going to go to Camera Vivid. And Camera Vivid I kind of like. Let's go to Camera Landscape again. So this is different for every one. I like that one too. So let's just go with Camera Vivid right now. So that's camera calibration. Alright, now I am technically done processing this image. As I look at it, it might be a little bit overbaked, but I'm just going to leave it that way for now for the sake of time. But you always could go back. I could go back in here and bring vibrance down a little bit if I think it's a little bit too colorful, a little bit too fake looking. Or maybe it's, I really want to push it over the top. I could go back and readjust things. It doesn't matter. Alright, so I'm happy with this. Now the next thing I do before I do any exporting or anything like that is what I like to do. Let me get rid of that panel. I like to do a black and white shot a lot of times too. So what you do is just right click on the thumbnail or right click on the image itself, and you get this menu that pops up. And what you want to do is create a virtual copy. Now what this will do is right next to the image, it's going to create a virtual copy of that image. And what that means is it's the exact same image, except you really don't have another photograph on your hard drive. It's just Lightroom is looking at the one photograph and showing you two different renderings of that same photograph. It saves on disk space, and it just works out real well. Now you could tell the virtual copy, it will have this folded corner on the thumbnail, as you could see. So this is the virtual copy, and this is the original copy. It's identical. Everything I processed is identical. But let's say I want to reprocess this now. So I'm going to click on the virtual copy, and I want to make it a black and white. So I'm just going to go to this panel here. There's different ways you could make it black and white, but I'm just going to click there, and I made it black and white. Look at that. Now I could go and do my black and white mix. I could come in and bring, oops, a little crazy there. Just blues down like that, something like that. But I'm just, for the sake of time, we're just going to leave it at like that. I know it doesn't look great, but that's not the point. The point is I'm trying to show you the way I do things, but as quickly as possible. Now, alright, so I have this colorful one, I have the black and white one. What if I want to make it not as colorful? Well, I could do another virtual copy. Let's just right click, either right click on the thumbnail or right click on the photograph, it doesn't matter. And then go to create a virtual copy. Now it's going to create another virtual copy. Alright, you can see the folded over corner there is that virtual copy. So let's just go and let's do one that's like desaturated. Not black and white, but not like full-blown hardcore color either, okay? And let's go to this panel here and go to saturation. That blue is just a little too strong. Also bring that blue down a little bit. There. Alright, now we have actually 3 versions of the same exact photo. We have the original one that I originally processed, and I made it really colorful. Then I made a black and white version of that same exact photo, and then I made a color, but kind of a washed out color version of that same photo. So that's how you could do things really quickly in Lightroom. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to export these 3 photos. And I get questions too, as how do you save things in Lightroom? Well, you don't. I could close Lightroom down and reopen it and everything is saved, and these changes are non-destructive. The original file actually was never touched. Lightroom created these little sidecar files with all this data on how these files are processed in the sidecar files. And the sidecar files, Lightroom reads the original file and then puts the sidecar file on top of it when it puts it in memory, and you get these renditions of the photograph. So it's a really cool way to develop an image non-destructively. Alright, so we have these 3 shots. I'm going to export them all. I'm going to send them all to my printer. Now, I do not have a printer here that I print on. When I say printer, I have a lab. I use Bay Photo to do my prints. I like them, so I send everything to them. So I export it first into a JPEG, and then I go to Bay Photo and I use their software to upload my JPEG to them to process. So what we're going to do is I want to do all 3 of these. So I'm going to select all 3. I could do them one at a time by clicking one, then holding the Command key or Control key and click another one, then do it again. Or I could just click the first one, hold the Shift key down and click the last one, and it has selected all 3. So I'm going to go now to File, Export. Now there's different choices here. We have presets over here. I'm just going to do it the way I normally do it. I like to send it to my desktop, and you could do a specific folder, or same folder as the original photo, whatever you want. You have to go through here and experiment, but I'm going to do it to my desktop. I like to use these custom settings. I like to give it a name, and I already named Beach. And start number is 1. What it will do, this one will be Beach-1, this one will be Beach-2, and this one will be Beach-3. Lightroom's going to do that automatically. All I got to do is give it the starting number. Next, I want JPEGs. I want the color space to be sRGB because that is what Bay Photo wants. I want the quality at 100. I'm not going to limit any file size, so make sure that's unchecked. I want these to be everything. I want every piece of data possible in these files. So I don't want to limit anything. I want 100% quality, and I want the full size file. I'm not going to so with that said, I'm not going to resize to fit anything like that. So that's all turned off. Now because I'm printing it, I want the resolution at 300 pixels per inch. If I was just going to upload these to Facebook or to Google or somewhere online, I would put this at 72 pixels per inch. That just makes the uploads a lot easier, faster, and that's good enough resolution for a screen, for someone to view it on a computer monitor. But to print it, I want 300 pixels per inch. If you're going to print this yourself too, you want 300 pixels per inch. Next, output sharpening. I used to never sharpen my images when I exported them. Till one day, for the heck of it, I did it, and I actually did notice a difference. So I'm going to sharpen it for the screen. Now, even though I'm getting these printed, I could sharpen them for matte paper or glossy paper. Just sharpen it for the screen. When you send it to your lab will sharpen it for the type of paper they're using. So we don't want all these different types of sharpening applied. Just sharpen it for the screen. It will turn out real well. I've done it, and it looks beautiful when you do it that way. I want all the metadata to go with the file, so these JPEGs will be embedded with the metadata. You could remove the location info. You might do that if you're photographing your children in your house and you're going to put them online. really, I would take off all the metadata. I would definitely at least click remove location info, because somebody could read the metadata file and know where you live, know where your children live, stuff like that. So that you're better safe than sorry. A watermark, I don't use watermarks at all anymore. I used to a long time ago. I know a lot of people do, and I actually will probably have a Lightroom uh, episode where I show you how to apply watermarks. I know a lot of people like them, a lot of people hate them, are real belligerent about it, and I'm just, if you like to use them, use them. I don't really, it's no skin off my nose, but I'd be happy to show you how to use them. That would be in a future episode. After exporting it, we have the choice of showing it in the Finder, because this is a Mac, or open in Adobe Photoshop CC or whatever. I'm going to do nothing, because that's normally what I do here, is nothing. Now I'm going to click Export. Now it's going to take a while, and you can see this bar here. It'll show the progress of each image. Right now it's creating Beach 1, now it's doing Beach 2, and in a second I'm sure it's going to do Beach 3. And one thing I should add that I kind of skipped over. After I processed this image the way I wanted it, let's say it was, okay, now it exported all three, so they're all on my desktop. Let me just show you real quick before I tell you the story. Here they are right here. Okay, let's go back to Lightroom a minute. Let's say after we process this image, if I wanted to send this over into Nik Silver Effects Pro, or Nik Color Effects Pro, or send it over to a different program, this is where I would do it at this point before I export it. I would just right click on the thumbnail or on the image, and I would edit in. I could edit something in Photoshop or Topaz Fusion, or any of these plugins that I have on my laptop here. So I have perfect, perfect, what do you call these things? I don't know. Perfect I don't know what that. I got all these add-ons. So if you want to do that, that's when you would do it. All right. So I exported these, though. I'm not going to do anything in Nik software or anything like that. I did this. I'm happy with it. I'm done with Lightroom. I'm going to hit Command Q to close Lightroom. That's the quick key for a Mac to close any program, including Lightroom. And I have the three images right here, right to the next to my dog's ear. So we're going to select them all so I could show you. Now here's the one, the first one, the real colorful one. Here's the one that we created a black and white out of. And here's the one that we have kind of a desaturated look. And I did that relatively quickly, considering I was talking while I was doing it, and fumbling and bumbling and stumbling my way through this video. But you get the idea. That's my entire workflow. That's how I get the images off my SD card, get them into Lightroom, decide which one I like, why I like it, get rid of the ones I don't like, then I develop the ones I like and I export them. And that's how I do it, just like that. So that's it for episode 33. I hope that helps anyone that's trying to find a workflow that works for you. And I'd like to thank everyone that watches all my videos. I really do appreciate it. That's it for now. I got a lot more Lightroom videos planned. I hope to get those going out rather regularly now that I have all those photo critiques done that were really taking up a lot of my time. And I have my Photoshop for photographers and my Elements, Learn Elements videos. And hopefully I'll be doing 1 or 2 videos of each every week. So that would be a lot of fun, because I was really getting bogged down with those critiques. It's nice to do these because I really do enjoy doing these videos. Well, that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys soon.